Hello and welcome back. My name is Sullosian and this is another episode of Skywanderers. So today will only be a short episode, unfortunately, as I'm just very busy with everything at the moment, but I wanted to try and get a bit of an update in what is happening just in Skywanderers related videos, just out there for the moment. So I also just wanted to run through a few ideas, but I literally just drew this. As you can see, it's meant to be my channel artwork, the Sullosian gaming sort of symbol, but yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm very awful at this sort of pixel art stuff. I reckon I need to make it much bigger to be able to get any decent detail put into it. But that was just something that I did in about 3 minutes, so we will just move on past that and we'll move on over here because this is where this stuff is at. So I've been designing a system for elevators and railway tubes. As we know, as some of you may know, railways only go in a straight line, so these slider blocks only go in a straight line. So I'll just place some down for you now. So you got the starter block, which has the thing that you build off of, so say that one there. But we will just build some rails, extensions, just either side of it. And when you activate the actual main block, the slider will go from end to end of it, but you can, using a constant gate or a mixed gate like that there, set the actual distance on the rail that it will go. So my first idea was, how do we actually figure out how to make something go around corners, because you can't just add an extension and then it will go around there. Unfortunately, it's not like Minecraft where the rails just connect automatically. So I thought, why don't we put the slider on a rotator, and then we can just rotate, and then it can slide along here from here to here, and then rotate it and it can slide there to there. In theory it was a great idea, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. So the other idea I had was to just build the extension straight off the one that's already on the rotator. But that means that the entire railway system will be rotating when, say, the elevator or the railway pod, say the subway system car, that's just going to be moving with it as well. So whenever that needs to change direction, the entire railway system will be changing direction too. It would be possible, but it's not very clean. I figured there's got to be a better way, even if it's more sophisticated. So I'll just sort of show. As you can see here, instead of going onto this one here, this is connected to the actual station, this block here. These two here are just connected to the rotator. So the slider will only go between ones on the same entity. These are on a child entity, so it will go between the ones already on the child entity, but will not transfer between mother and child entity. So that's a real disappointment, but it is what it is. So I just sort of had this switch here. As you can see, you can move the entire railway system like that, but if this were, say, 100 meters long, then you'd be moving 100 of these extension blocks in a row, and then there would be some confusing logic work involved, telling it where to stop along the line depending on the direction that it's turned. So it would be possible, but it would be messy. You'd have entire railway systems moving in like a giant sweeping motion. It could be possible, and I'll show you what I mean when we go underground, but in terms of only going that way, or it can only go 4 directions basically. It can only go on the same plane of existence that it's already on. So my other idea, which I sort of just thought up the other day, was to do something along the lines of using a docking system to attach and detach the actual pod to a different line when it needs to be on a different line. This will give it full directional capability of transportation. So I was pretty happy with this idea, and unfortunately I didn't actually think about it too much, but one problem is the switches that control the docking system, which allow it to connect to the other clamp, are on the wrong sort of entity. So this is a ship in itself right here, and the station is basically another ship in itself. Unfortunately, you can't connect logic between different ships, and I'll just place a switch to show you what I mean. So just placing a switch here. This framework here is connected to the station. This here, as you can see with the ship core, is its own ship. So if I were to try and connect this to, say, one of these switches here, it just doesn't work. So what I've just sort of realised just this moment now is all I would have to do is switch around the actual docking things. So I could just switch and have, say, this here on here, and then I can have the docking probe on the actual station, and then I can just activate and deactivate that. So this problem will actually be solved. I was just hoping to have these here on the actual turbo cube, as I'm going to call them, but it seems like I can get away with this problem, but I'll just sort of show how it works. So I've just set up this mix gate here, which will control how far this slider works, and that should be this button here. So as you can see, I can now move this here up and down. So this is basically an elevator up and down already. So just imagine you get to sit in here, you're inside this area here, you get to sit there and you get to ride the elevator up and down, even though this one's only set to a very short distance. If I were to get rid of this roof here, you can just sort of show, and we'll also just change this here to 7 meters, I guess. Oh no, wrong way. 3 meters, and we'll change this one here to 1 meter, which means it can go all the way up there. Oh no, we can set that to 0, sorry. We'll just set that to 0. And then we can set this one to, say, 3 meters. We'll just leave it at that. So that way, as you can see, it goes down perfectly into this docking slot here. And then it's just simply a matter of enabling this docking slot here. This button here is connected to this dock, and then disabling this one here, which connects this one here. And then it's a matter of sliding this rail instead. So this button here is connected to that slider there. So now, if we just... So it seems that you have to deactivate one, then activate the other. And you can't sort of activate another and then deactivate the other one. So you can only have one docking clamp active at the same time on one ship. So in theory, this mechanism can only work on a stationary ship or stationary station. It would not work on a ship moving already, because you technically have another ship inside the other ship. But I'll just sort of see, now I can now move this. So moving this switch here, we can now see that I can now move this elevator on this direction as well. And it would be as simple as adding, sorry, I'll just build some out now, this here, adding another one of these here, and then connecting it to a docking cone here on a separate rail going this direction here, and you could have it moving in this direction too. So with this design of sorts, you should technically be able to make a ship / elevator that can move in all directions as an elevator or a railway system on board a station or ship. But you would have to keep it stationary, otherwise there would be issues where this ship would just be bouncing around the tube which it's meant to be sliding around in if the docking were to get released. So hopefully that all makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know and I'll try my best to re-explain it in a better sense with more detail. But this is the system I'm thinking I will end up using to do the railway system in the station here, the Sullosian base star. So I'll also just head on down to the main concourse here, which I will now be showing you off just a little bit of what I've been working on and toying around with. So we'll just sort of slow our speed down a bit so I'm not moving too fast. But as you can see here, we've got these sort of buildings that stretch up to the roof here, and then you've also got these buildings here which stretch up to the roof, and they sort of start to curve over the top here. So the idea I'm aiming for is that people will get out of the elevators or the railway tube, whatever you want to call it, just here. They can walk here. They can have lots of different entrances and exits to different things on this floor available down these corridors here, and maybe even some more data terminals and other things just down the middle here. Think a train station design. And then moving on this way, they can come out here and they can sort of just go shopping, they can get food, they can do all sorts of things. This is more or less the area for visitors to the station. So people will get off their elevator after docking their ship or whatever. They can come up here to the main concourse and say they want to go to a French restaurant here. They can come in here and then they can dine inside on one of the multiple floors they will have access to. And there will also probably be cargo and rooms available above, because there's about 5 floors per building. And there's, 8 buildings. But they can also dine outside here, and I'll probably improve this a bit more as well. It's just sort of temporary, but this will be like a garden area, so it's not quite what we had envisioned originally, having a massive greenery area with a glass dome roof and all that, but it is somewhat similar, and I'm actually somewhat liking how it's coming along, but I don't know what colours to use and if this sort of design is working well. I was sort of going for the old English sort of style of building where they come out just a little bit on each floor that goes up, and it's somewhat common on some cruise ships these days too. They sort of come out a little bit just as they go up, so that way they get more room the higher up they go. And of course there will be more windows along these walls. At the moment it's just sort of walls and slopes and just sort of way too many lights, but I just wanted to give you a general idea of what I'm working for, and I wanted your feedback on this design if you think it would work. So I'm furthering on just this design of this general area. We'll have fountains and terminals along here, like information terminals. So like walking around in the mall, you get to like one of the data screens and they can tell you, oh yeah, if you want to go to, say, the mechanic repair shop or something, or a certain restaurant, it will say it's on block D3, and then D3 will be over here, and it will give you a map of where things are. So hopefully that sort of clarifies how this is coming along. It's looking good in my opinion, but I definitely want your feedback, and I want to know what you guys think of how this is coming along and what I can do to improve or change this. Because if you guys don't like this, you think it's not suitable for this style of space station or ship, let me know and give me some feedback about what I can change about it. Furthering on the railway system, what I'm doing for getting how that will work is I want to be able to see the actual turbo cubes and turbo tubes moving through these glass floors here. So we'll just sort of try and clip through the floor just here. So what we've got here is we've got a fair bit of room. We've got about 8 blocks room, which is what I'm basing the overall design off at the moment. 8 blocks room from here up to here, which I can actually build the cube in, and then they can run along this level of the floor. So this is where they will move horizontally, but in the future they will also be able to come out here, and some of them will be able to dock in special elevator docks here and be able to move vertically up and down the ship. The problem is they have to have their own track each, because if 2 different people on different sections of the ship run down the same track, the ships won't have any problem with clipping through each other. So you'll have 2 different elevator tubes just running into each other, and people will be basically clipping through the other elevators. So that could be a bit disastrous. So I'm going to have to do one path at a time for the elevators, which will certainly be time consuming, but I have a feeling it will definitely be worth it. I'm not sure if I've shown this off yet, but just furthering on plans for this area. So as you can see here, we've got a ship here, and you might have noticed this ship over here, just sort of slowly looking around here. This is a cargo ship designed by Piston 1937, I think that's his name. He's on the Discord forums, but just to point out to his ship here, so this is a cargo ship he's working on, and being that he's got one of the bigger cargo ships in the game at the moment, I asked if I could use it just to size up how it would fit inside my space hangar. And as you can see, it's quite a big ship. It can hold quite a bit of cargo once it's finished, and it will be able to dock in here with plenty of room. So this sort of helps me figure out how much room I've got between where the hangar bay doors will be inside and outside, where things will be docking, and also how they will go about moving cargo off. So we'll sort of come out here, and I'll just speed up a little bit, but basically this will be a blast door of sorts for people to just walk through, but this bigger door here, this will be an overall think crane and shipping container sort of transport door. So along this wall here, we're going to have like racking, which you can store shipping containers on using the docking system once again. So they will be able to get a crane or a truck of some sort, a forklift even, and they can bring a shipping container over, they can lift it up if they need to, they can slot it into a docking slot, and then they can activate a button, it will lock into the wall, and you can have a wall full of shipping containers just here. It's a bit dark and a bit hard to see because it's all the same colour. Sort of coming back here, just a wall of shipping containers along here. And then in the middle here, if anyone's seen the movie Passengers, they've got like giant cargo rooms where they permanently store cargo. So the shipping containers can be docked here for now. The cargo ship can go off and grab some more cargo from somewhere else, and whilst we transfer the actual stuff out of the shipping containers into the permanent cargo storage, then they can come back, and then we can offload the empty cargo shipping containers back onto the cargo ship, and they can get their shipping containers back. So much like it works in the real world, except this is shipping containers instead of pallets and other things. So I hope that makes sense. I just want to have like a permanent storage just along here in this sort of room, from this wall here, these like pillars here going across here. This will all be cargo storage. I want a very big cargo area. It may not seem that big, but in terms of how big we are in terms to this room, we're pretty minuscule compared to this room. So I have a feeling if it were too much bigger it would seem ridiculous, but at this size I think it makes sense. So there will be a wall of shipping containers, in the middle here, permanent cargo storage, and lots of vehicles capable of moving shipping containers and cargo around for permanent and temporary storage. So I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. I've been getting a lot of feedback and suggestions for the actual overall course of the station, and that's been really helpful. It's just been a lot of great ideas that I hadn't thought of yet. And in terms of diplomatic and governing factors to this station, this is going to be the sort of faction meeting room. So think the United Nations of sorts. All the different clans and factions that want to work together, they can come here, they can sit around at a big conference table, they can talk and negotiate. And it will sort of be like a war room as well, just like ambassadors and diplomats can come from different areas and they can all meet in here. So I need to fit this area out differently because at the moment it's just sort of a rough mirroring of what was on the top. But as you can see here, it's somewhat ready with the shape I want to go with. So it's not going to be too big a room, but just sort of like a governing and diplomat area there where people can sort stuff out. There will be lots of other things, but for the moment, just to wrap things up, this is how the station is looking, and I would very much appreciate any feedback that you have and think would be helpful. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.